Welcome, everyone, to A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And tonight, I'm going to talk about the exhaustion that comes along with this deadly virus, COVID-19, such that it can be a little overwhelming. It's beginning to get to the point in this pandemic where I feel we can admit that we are feeling overwhelmed, whether it's with the news cycle, whether it is with the number of people in your circle, in your close personal circle that are being affected by this, either economically or physically. And what the weight of this pandemic is on the world, on the state of the world, on the future of our economies. All of it. It's daunting, and it feels like we can't catch our breath. So tonight I've titled my show Catching Your Breath, because I think that we need to try to catch our breath. And I'm going to talk about different ways in which we can do that, which includes self-care, of course, both physical and mental self-care, and also some techniques that we may be able to use at home, especially in the beginning stages of what might later be diagnosed as COVID, since, as you learned yesterday right here on my show, the New York doctor, Craig, that I was quoting from Twitter, has said that they are sending a lot of people home that normally would have been admitted as hospital patients. But because of the lack of space, because of the lack of equipment, what they're doing is only critical cases that need to go in for, the most severe cases, only those cases are being admitted. And a lot of folks are being sent home with symptoms that they're not being tested for. There are not enough tests for us to test everyone. So a lot of folks are getting sent home and told to do self-care. And we're going to talk about what some of those things could look like that will help you catch your breath. All of that tonight on A Mexican Crossing Lines. I want to first thank all of you, our public, our audience that have followed our programming, that share it, that send us messages and send us so much content for each of our shows. I'm currently working on a whole other show about the activists during the pandemic and what they're focused on, and I'm going to give you a little taste of that tonight. But first, I want to turn it over to Duke so he can tell you all how to follow, how to like our programming, how to share it, and also how to support your local community radio station.
That's right. Thank you for being here tonight, everybody. There's a lot of ways to get hold of us, and keep on sending that information. We really appreciate what you can do, what you are doing, and how you participate with our station. We have a lot of solid followers who have been with us for a long time. And, when we bring up stuff from Standing Rock, many of you have been with us since Standing Rock, and you've seen a whole history of information. So when we talk about these fake activists that are involved in the pandemic and trying to raise money and basically rip off people, you know their history. But you need to get a hold of us. There's many ways. You can give us a call on our message line, 701-566-0917. It's 701-566-0917. You can email Cindy at kpppfm.com or me, Duke, at kpppfm.com. You can find us on Facebook at 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead. The People's Press Project of Mexi-Can. Also on YouTube, we are streaming, multi-streaming on Facebook and YouTube. We are Duke 1517. That's the name of the channel, Duke 1517. Just search for that, find our channel, subscribe to it, please, and you'll get notified. And the little bell. Ring the bell and you'll know when we're live on YouTube. Facebook has notifications, but for some reason they work sometimes. Sometimes they don't. You can also go to kpppfm.com, which is our main website, and look around, look at our programming, look at our past shows. And if you'd like to support us, please do. Make a tax-deductible donation at kpppfm.com/donate. Support independent media.
Okay. I want to start off with the worldwide numbers And let's take a look at where we are currently right now. Now, we've been talking about how the numbers are increasing. In some places, we have been talking about how we don't feel we're getting correct information.
Yep.
For example, in China and also in the US, and why that is. Right now, we have a total confirmed cases of 1,973,715 with over 125,000, almost 126,000 deaths worldwide. And of course, we don't know the true numbers, not in the United States, not in China, not in any country, for a wide variety of reasons. That doesn't make the pandemic a hoax.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the pandemic less deadly. It doesn't mean that the pandemic isn't a real threat. It simply means that it is massively difficult to count cases, critical cases, deaths, and to track that in different countries that have different levels of ability to respond, different levels of ability to test, different levels of ability to dispose of bodies once they die. So that all leads to a variety of challenges and barriers, if you will, for us to actually get correct information. And I find that too often we get hung up on the fact that we can't get correct information to say, well, it can't be verified, so it must not be true.
Yeah.
And I hope that all of you are taking what I'm saying to heart, because the truth is that we may never get a perfectly exact number of how many people died from COVID, how many people contracted COVID, how many people recovered versus how many people got seriously ill, what percentage of that of our population, and maybe we'll get a clearer picture, but way, way, way down the road. It's not going to be useful for us today. What I can tell you from tracking the numbers since we started reporting on this several weeks ago is that this virus is continuing to multiply, continuing to spread, and that we still know precious little about what we can do to stop it. And in the United States right now, we have 609,614 cases. We are over 500,000 cases. We're at 25,794 deaths right now. And we have 38,479 people recovered.
Wow.
And actually, that's the number from when I took the screenshot before the show.
Yeah. It goes up
now,
every hour. Yeah.
We are up to 613,235 cases.
Oh, boy.
25,989 deaths. And 38,721. So let's look at the states, state by state comparison, to get an idea of how bad things are in New York and some of the states that have a lot of cases. We have over 203,000 confirmed cases in New York, 7,468 new cases, a total of 10,834 deaths in New York alone. That accounts for almost half of the total deaths in the U.S. Do you realize that?
Wow.
In one state.
Yep.
We haven't even scratched the surface of what this virus can do. New Jersey has 68,000 cases, 2,805 deaths. That's 362 new deaths. Massachusetts is at 28,163. 957 deaths. California now has 25,477 confirmed cases and only 780 deaths. Illinois has 23,247 cases with 868 deaths. So the numbers keep on mounting. What can you tell me about Minnesota and North Dakota?
Oh, hold on there. Just because we're in these states that are
Rural,
rural, it doesn't
not densely populated.
the numbers are smaller. There's less people, and it's something that we really need to have more of a world view.
Yeah.
And a view that goes beyond just our neighborhood. In North Dakota, there's, I'll tell you the numbers in a few minutes here, but it's just because there's low numbers doesn't mean we shouldn't be paying attention. It's very serious. We all have relatives all over the country, all over the world.
Yeah.
And this is hitting everywhere, and we need to be aware of it. And, we're bringing you current information because we think it's important to keep on thinking, listening, and watching. What's happening in Minnesota is we've had 1,695 positives, and there's been 79 deaths. And so the numbers are, there's still 79 people who died, and there's still 1,600 people that are, infected with this virus. So that's serious.
It's really depressing and concerning to me.
Yeah.
The fact that Iowa, my home state, has now surpassed Minnesota in the number of COVID cases. Iowa's up to 1,899 cases right now.
Wow.
And it has surpassed Minnesota in numbers of new cases. Minnesota's only up 45, while Iowa's up 189.
Oh my goodness.
And they're still beneath us in terms of deaths, with Minnesota having 79. What did you say today?
Oh, I gotta find this again. Sorry.
Well, what was it in the 80s and the 90s?
Yeah,
do you remember?
Close to 80.
Okay, it's 79 on this graph.
Yeah.
And I was still at 49, but in the last day, Minnesota had 9 new deaths, while Iowa had 6 new deaths. So it's not that far off.
And for me, it's important to know what's happening right here. And the county I live in is Clay. And the positive cases is up to 42. It was just at 30 just a couple days ago. And then last week, it was only 20 or 15. So we have more people getting infected in the county that we live in. And we jump over across the river to North Dakota. And North Dakota has, still small numbers, but every day they go up. You see, the thing is that they continue to go up.
Mm-hmm.
North Dakota had 10 more North Dakotans had been diagnosed with COVID-19, and 341 diagnosed total, with 42 recovered, and 13 remain in the hospital. And also, when they report these every day at 3 o'clock, and when they report them from the previous day, and the governor does a press conference, and has had deaths almost every day to be added to this list.
Mm-hmm.
Like another person died. So it's up to 9 deaths in North Dakota. And let's see, positive 341, 42 in the hospital. However, where these come from, the county that we live next to, which Fargo is in.
Mm-hmm.
There's, out of those 10 that were reported positive, there was a woman in her 30s. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of the 10 new positive cases that were reported yesterday were from, I'd say, most likely Fargo.
Well, the woman in her 30s is from Grand Forks. You mean a woman in her 70s from Cass County?
Yeah, I was going from the bottom up.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. 70s, Cass County, 40, Cass County, 30s, Cass County, 20s from Cass County, 40s from Cass County, 80s from Cass County, and 30s from Cass County. So it's young, very young people are being infected.
Here is the disconnect, okay, folks?
Yeah.
I'm watching it happen here in the United States, and I'm watching it happen over the border. And interestingly enough, I was gathering information. I did an interview today with my correspondent in Mexico City, and I was asking questions about a situation happening in Tijuana. And the situation in Tijuana is that the National Institute of Medicine, which is called the Social Security National Institute, or in its abbreviated form in Spanish, IMSS, there was a retired doctor that worked at the EAMS that was getting reports from medical staff there saying that they didn't have proper PPE, that many of them were falling ill with COVID because they weren't informed that COVID was even present in the state, and that they were already overcome with a number of cases, a lot of which, according to one of the people that I collaborate with there from Border Network News, Oscar El Blue Ramirez, they've been reporting a lot of atypical pneumonia, but not categorizing and not testing for COVID-19. Yeah. So these were all very concerning things that I was hearing coming out of Baja California. And then I find out that a prominent actor / comedian named Eugenio Derbez put out a video reading a letter from this retired doctor saying that the government needs to do something, that they want to crowdsource protective gear for the medical staff in Baja California. And this prompted a response from a regional director named Desiree. I can't remember what her last name is. Starts with an R. Desiree. Anyway, she hit back saying that the doctor is made up. The claims are made up. This is just, propaganda invented by this actor for whatever reason. And by that evening, people were attacking this actor and, saying that the doctor wasn't real. So he made another video showing the information of the hospital, phone numbers, the doctors. And since the retired doctor has since been interviewed by the press, and he has confirmed that what Eugenio Derbez said is true. And not only that, the governor of the state of Baja California has now come forward and said the EAMS does have a lack of PPE and equipment, and they have always had a lack of PPE and equipment prior to the pandemic and post-pandemic. And he said, quote unquote, that the doctors were falling like flies.
Wow.
That's what he said. So having confirmed all of this and everything that has come out of Baja, I reached out to my colleague Oscar in Mexico to ask, what can you tell me about this? Is this true? There's conflicting information flying back and forth of people saying, that's not true. And this afternoon, the President AMLO's administration put out a statement saying that the pandemic is being used as a political attack against his administration.
Really?
And that they are using actors and actresses and musicians like Thalia and Eugenio Derbez to attack him erroneously without any evidence or proof.
Wow.
So I reached out to my correspondent in Mexico City and to my friend and sometimes collaborator at BNN, Oscar El Blue Ramirez, and I got completely different stories. The Baja California people were telling me, and another reporter there named Alfredo Alvarez were saying, yes, it's bad. It's going to be tragic. We don't have enough equipment. There won't be enough hospitals. There won't be enough beds. There won't be enough doctors. There won't be enough medicine. And what's coming is going to be awful. But it's not just the fault of the EAMS. According to Alfredo Alvarez, it's the fault of the incredulous people. It's the fault of those who refused to quarantine. It's the fault of those who called it a hoax. It's the fault of those who decided to go on vacation when it was recommended that you stay at home. It's a fault of those who think that it's more important that they have their own self-comfort and that they have the time to go get their massage or go shopping or going partying or drinking than it is to stay home and protect their families. So there is sort of psychotic denial going on
Mm-hmm.
in Mexico that I'm seeing, uh, to the point where you have reporters exasperated and confused because of the conflicting information. Meanwhile, in Mexico City, okay, remember, Baja California is right next to the U.S., which had an outbreak first. You'll recall that California was one of the first states to basically lock down its state. And the flow of traffic of people and goods across that border has been constant up until March 20 something when they
Mm-hmm.
closed the border and said no more people crossing unless it's an essential worker,
Yeah, which still has people crossing.
which still has people crossing, but not at the levels that we're constantly crossing. So when you see that kind of a disconnect in terms of numbers, when you're right next to Baja California and you have such low numbers in Baja and you have such high numbers in California, you have to kind of ask yourself, am I allowing myself to be lulled into complacency by these desperate numbers?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a Mexican, should I not be logically concluding that the numbers really have to be much, much higher? And the reality is that regardless of whether or not Andrés Manuel López Obrador or the people in Mexico City that are so far away believe that there is a crisis because of this pandemic at Tijuana, in Baja California, or any other state in their country, it does not mean that the pandemic is not real.
Exactly.
And it's not going to stop the pandemic from infecting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in Mexico and killing so many. So many.
You know, and that's why the numbers and paying attention to numbers are important, and you can't minimize things. You know, nursing homes are being counted by the Minnesota Department of Health, and they've basically looked at 53 nursing homes. Now, some of the nursing homes don't like it. They don't want their nursing homes being talked about. It's like it's their business. They want to do their reporting or not report anything because they don't have to do anything. So the state has been collecting information. And the way they collect is very important to know is that the health officials add new facilities, and they go for bigger ones, the ones that have more than 10. And how they frame if there's been a person that's positive, it'll either be a resident, a staffer, or a contractor who has tested positive for the coronavirus. And it only provides details on ones that are, 10 or over. But that means if some healthcare worker from Sanford goes to your facility and they test positive, that nursing home facility has a positive coronavirus number. Yeah. So I wanted to clarify that because here in our county again, I always want to kind of look at the cases we have here, and we've had two at Eventide and Moorhead Rehabilitation, and those are two nursing homes that have a positive. Now, Eventide has been arguing that their case shouldn't be on this list because they haven't had a resident who is positive. And this is one of the things they just put out today. And this woman's 109 years old, and her name is Lillian. If she's 109, she was 7 years old
with the pandemic of Spanish flu hit.
Spanish flu, so this is her second pandemic.
Wow.
But she's holding a sign that says, Eventide's Words of Wisdom. Lillian, age 109. Keep pushing. We always make it through. So, it's a positive message. I agree with that, but they've been ramping up just positive messages, and it just scares me because they need to hunker down. They need to do better at their methods of not letting this spread. And it's something we've never had before, and just preparing for the flu and doing things like you do for the flu has been shown nationwide isn't good enough.
Now, one of our listeners commented that they would like to know if the numbers that we're getting for the states include people from reservations or if those are counted separately. And as far as I can tell, the reservations are reporting their numbers separately because they are sovereign nations, obviously,
Hmm.
and they have their own intergovernmental response to the virus on their reservations, as well as they are the ones that are, reporting how many cases that they have to the state. So the state may include those, but they are doing them separately on their own.
Yeah, and the way the state of North Dakota is doing it, for example, they put out press releases. They reveal the information in the form that they reveal them. Minnesota has a little bit deeper analysis, so you can actually look deeper and
Break it
deeper
down.
and break it down. North Dakota, it's whatever they're giving us that are the numbers that are going to be reported on because they do it
Hmm.
officially from the governor's office in a press release, and there's no site you can go to and look at the actual raw numbers and see how they're putting them together or releasing them.
Now, you recall me telling you that there was a nursing home in Texas that had a number of cases, a number of breakouts in their facility, and they took the unprecedented step of putting all of the people that live there on hydrochloroquine as sort of a test study case. And, a lot of people are disturbed by that. In fact, many of the patients with dementia that the medicine was given to were not even notified, or their families weren't notified. They obviously can't give consent themselves. So the doctor made this unilateral decision to give the medicine to everyone. And I wanted to know what everyone thought of that.
Hmm.
So I put that out there. I put that out there to you again. Now we have a situation where a government of a state, specifically South Dakota, is going to be doing the same thing. Here's a post from, actually, it's a post from Facebook by Candy Brings Plenty, which is a Native American. I would believe that she's working with the Indigenous Environmental Network. And she is upset about Governor Noam's tweet, which reads, "We've received the initial doses that we need, thanks to the leadership of Sanford Health, with assistance from Avera Health and at underscore Momentum Health. We are now the first state to do a full clinical," could you scroll that up a little bit, "trial to test whether hydrochloroquine works." And this Native American leader, if you will, has posted this saying, "Governor Kristi Noem has offered us up as tribute. South Dakota will be the first state in the U.S. to do a full clinical trial to test whether or not hydrochloroquine can treat or even prevent COVID-19. Hashtag stay home. Hashtag Trump's puppet." Now,
Oh.
Governor Noam, Governor Burgum, and a lot of other governors in the Midwest who have, including the Republican governor of Iowa, that have not yet issued stay-at-home orders, have been criticized for not doing so. And this move is another something very controversial. I wanted to mention that people from the Border Support Network, like Doug McLean, are also very upset about it, posting that South Dakota will be the first state to conduct hydrochloroquine trials. This is a very controversial direction that's being taken by the governor of the state of South Dakota. And of course, the president has been speaking very favorably about this drug in his press conferences. What do you think, Duke? Is this an unethical abuse of power by the federal government, by the states, or by these facilities that are using hydrochloroquine?
Yesterday
Or
I'm still undecided. I don't. Yesterday we were talking about this, and it was like, if you're sick and there's something that could help you get better, and you're not going to use it because it hasn't been approved and all that, and you don't understand all the side effects. It's like, I'd want something to be tried on me or my family members if they were sick, and it would help them. To do a trial statewide, I think there's already being trials being done to try to test it. It's kind of like taking humans and seeing if it works with a whole bunch of people in your state. I don't know about doing it that way, I don't know if it's voluntary. I mean, is it going to be an actual clinical test that people sign up for, and those sorts of things, and maybe that's good. Maybe it's that it'll give more data. But just to not do anything with these drugs and just and just wait and wait and wait, I think that
That's
there,
also
it,
could be argued it's unethical.
yeah, yeah, the ethics of doing it, it depends how it's done. I mean, you're gonna do a test and have a trial, and we're living in times that we've had to loosen regulations just to move things across the country, to
Right.
get things to hospitals, to get hospitals to operate in ways we have a government that has regulated itself so much that couldn't even get anything done. So think about it in that way as a medical profession. Yeah, there's going to be unethical things because we live in times where we need to move quickly.
James Fox writes in a comment saying, if you have a hidden allergic reaction to that, meaning hydrochloroquine,
Yeah.
you will die. So don't anyone try using anything with it mixed in the ingredients. Only after deep testing should you use such and with a doctor's presence. Well, James, I think that there's a lot of concerns. I think that's what the concerns these people are voicing is about. They don't know whether or not they want to be treated like guinea pigs.
Mm-hmm.
But in the event, let's just say, in the event that it's widely available in a place like South Dakota and you come down with it and you have comorbidities or you're over the age of 70 and you've been a lifelong smoker, and they tell you like your chances of getting seriously sick and dying from this are pretty high. You're already, on the path to getting seriously ill. Do you want to try this experimental drug to see if it will help you? Because I've been listening, I'm not going to lie, I've been listening to a lot of anecdotal information, and that's all it is. It's anecdotal because we don't have any clinical trials on it. That it does sound very promising when you listen to all of these people that were very seriously ill that thought, they might die because the symptoms, they go on and on and on. It feels awful. From everyone that we've heard talk about what this does to your body, it lasts for a lot longer. It's a lot stronger. It's a lot more deadly. It's a lot more painful than people have sometimes expressed comparing it to the flu. So I might want that option. And in a lot of states, people won't get that option because it's not available.
Yeah, and it should be an option. I mean, if they were just going to test everybody in the state and make everybody do it, I think that would be horrible.
Obviously, that would be
But
horrible.
it's like if they're giving you a choice and you make a decision,
Mm-hmm.
and there's risk. I mean, you're making a choice. I mean,
Yeah.
we should have some choices in this.
And speaking of what this disease does to your body, I am going to have you listen to Chris Cuomo. I played an interview that I thought was so informative and powerful about how dangerous this virus is from a man named Kevin that was, in great shape. He was in his mid 50s, never smoked, never drank, never used drugs, ran every day, had a resting heartbeat of,
Mm-hmm.
pretty high resting heartbeat. The guy didn't even know how he caught it because he'd been pretty isolated, and he managed to survive it. And he talked about how the virus lulls you into a sense of uh, complacency where when you move, when you get up and walk, when you try to do anything, you literally feel like the most horrible pain. And if you stop and if you lay down, the pain goes away. You start feeling better,
Mm-hmm.
So it tricks you into letting the virus overcome you, settle into your lungs, and that is going to kill you. And he said that he begged the nurses to pick him up and force him to walk around and force him to move, even if he begged them not to. So there's a part of you that will overwhelmingly want to just let it take over, that will beg not to be moved, that will cry, that will choke, that will feel like you're dying if they make you get up and walk or breathe or do breathing exercises. But I'm hearing in this interview with Chris Cuomo that Kevin was right, and that's exactly what you have to do. Listen for yourselves.
All right, so here's what I've learned. Here's the secret to kicking this virus. It's not a pill or a potion. It's about your will and devotion. The virus wants us to lay down. The virus wants us to take it. Other than the blessed few, the rest of us who get this are going to have an experience unlike anything else they've ever had. Days and waves. The old notion of get in bed and stay there when you get sick, it sounds great. And if you're really up against it, you need to do as little as possible. I've been there. Trust me, I know. But you can't stay there. Now I'm wise to the beast and its ways. It changes. The fever is just softening us up. It's making your body hurt, so you don't want to move your body because what it wants to do is get in your lungs. That's what it wants to do. I feel it constricting my chest. When I had that chest x-ray did, I saw that infiltrate right away. There I was on Friday night, okay? I was not going to do the show tonight. I was done. I was in a pool of sweat. 12 hours later, I was in the same damn place. I hadn't slept a minute. I was just soaked and scared, honest to God. So then I get a call from a friend of a friend of a friend, asks me about my symptoms. He's a pulmonary expert and says, can you get up? I say, yeah, I can get up. He says, do it. He says, can you stretch your torso? I said, what do you mean? He says, put your arms over your head. I go like this. I'm like, oh, God. I was like, yeah, no, it doesn't feel that good. He said, do it. He said, can you hold your breath for 10 seconds? I said, probably not, to be honest. He said, do it. And then he gave me the key. He said he heard me say that I wanted to keep this out of my lungs. And he said, I saw your x-rays. It's in your lungs. And you got the right fear and you got the wrong approach. You can't wait it out. He said, you have to fight. And not in some silly metaphorical way. This isn't about like channeling Rocky or Eye of the Tiger. You've got to do the things that will beat this virus. You've got to breathe deep when it hurts. And it hurts. I know it hurts. And I'm not trying to minimize anybody's pain. When you get a fever spike and that hurts, he said, you can't take confidence that it's going to go down. There are going to be spikes for at least 10 days when you get a fever. You got to layer up. You got to drink. You got to take Tylenol. And you got to fight back. You've got to make that fever go down any way you can. The chest gets you. It makes you small. It's really what defines this COVID. And the COVID is banking on you doing nothing. Your indolence, as the doctors call it. It wants us passive on our backs. It wants us to do nothing. The answer has to be to do everything. I lie on my side. I lie on my stomach. I'm up. I'm doing my breathing. I know I've got that stuff in my lungs. I'm not going to lose to this thing that way. No way. No way I'm going to do that to my wife and my kids and all the people who care about me. I'm not going into the hospital for something that I can avoid it, if I can avoid it. So that's it. All day, all night, hundo P, 100%. That's why I have to keep working. First of all, because I can. And if I can, I should. And it's because it's a way for me to help. There has to be a purpose to this. You know, I'm not just going to go through the suck here for some sense of self-satisfaction to make it through. I want to write this all up. I want to get it out to you guys afterwards so you have a better chance against this than I did. I'll show you the x-rays, the good and the bad, the blood work, hopefully to come, my supplements, my diet. Why? I want you to have it easier than I did. That's a part of my job too, to give you the information that helps you have a better life, especially now. And to return the favor for you guys being so incredible with your love and attention. That's why I had to come at the government, specifically in the prism of this president, when he says things that play to our weaknesses. It's not his job. It's, to test. That really? He doesn't want the federal government to test? What the hell is his job if it's not to do everything that he can? This has to be desperation on all fronts. Personally, as a function of community, and in terms of our leadership. We have to be desperate to beat this. That is the way we will all get better.
Yes, yes.
And one of the things that he's talking about is the, laying on his side, laying on his back, laying on his stomach. I believe what he's referring to there is postural draining that can be achieved by laying in different positions to allow with your lungs below your heart. You want your lungs to be positioned down, your waist higher than your lungs, so that they can drain. Here's some different ways in which you can drain your lungs, even while people are sleeping. You saw, if you looked at Italy's hospital rooms, you saw people laying in positions like this in hospital beds. Yeah. And they have to, those people were unconscious, so that somebody had to continually move them around. And turn them on their side and turn them on their back and turn them on their stomach. And as you can tell in these pictures, they're draining in each of these different positions, different parts of the lobe. The top one there, which is in a complete incline, looks like a 20-degree incline there, is the lateral basal segment of the right lower lobe. And this other one in the middle, it looks like a teepee. It's like a pyramid
Yep.
with a bunch of pillows in the middle so that the buttocks is all the way up in the air. They're laying on their stomach and their chest is going down almost at a 45-degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
The same position can be achieved over a chair that's flipped over.
Yeah, I see that too.
So that's another way without using, with the aid of pillows and a chair to create that, pyramid position.
Yep.
But as I have shared before with you, in terms of percussion, that was discussed by one of the breathing therapists that said this is a good thing to do even when you don't have COVID-19, when you have people with respiratory illnesses, percussion. You've done percussion on me when I've gotten real sick.
Oh, yeah.
So there's all sorts of different positions. I wanted to show you how many different positions. And you're supposed to, according to the different places that I looked for information, lay in these different positions to drain the different lobes of your lungs for 5 to 10 minutes each.
Wow.
So this is a lot of work, right? If you are in a situation where you're quarantining until you can get tested or to see if you develop more symptoms of COVID-19 and or already have respiratory compression to where you feel like you're having trouble breathing, then going through the effort of doing all of these exercises, of doing all of these breathing exercise and draining of your lungs in these different ways to keep mucus from building up in your lungs could end up being life-saving advice before you're even aware of whether or not you're diagnosed. Because you're not letting it, in those crucial moments, you're not letting it get a hold of you. Look at all the different positions. And as you can see from this diagram, they're identifying all of the different segments, the upper lobes, the middle lobe, the lower lateral segments, the superior segments. I mean, there are a lot. Did you know there are these many different sections of the lung that you had to drain?
No.
You would just think that the pyramid one would get it all out. You're on your tummy. No, you have to lay on your back leaning backwards, on your side leaning backwards, and on your, stomach completely supine, on, with the raised head, with the, on your back, on your back and on your stomach, and just leaning forward. And so I wanted to share a video in which we're going to hear not only all of the different ways of draining the lungs, the different positioning, and you can see them and hear how you're supposed to perform them, but also breathing exercises that you should be doing if you're having any problems breathing. These are breathing exercises that you can be doing to make sure that you are keeping your airways clear and to do it properly. So here are those different treatments for the lungs. This is from Tan Tock Seng Hospital. It's a national healthcare group, home ventilation and respiratory support service. Chest physiotherapy.
Postural drainage is an airway clearance technique that uses the effect of gravity to clear secretions from different segments of the lungs. As postural drainage is using the effect of gravity, the affected part of the lungs need to be positioned at a higher point of the body in order for secretion to move. The patient should stay in each position for 10 to 15 minutes for most effective treatment. Postural drainage is combined with techniques like chest wall vibrations and forced expiration techniques to achieve better efficiency. Do not perform it with a full stomach. the patient should only do it before a meal or at least 1 to 1.5 hours after a meal. Do not perform it if the patient has or developed any of the following symptoms: gastroesophageal reflux or acid reflux, nausea, significant increase in breathlessness, fresh blood in your secretions, recent rib, spine or muscle injury, wheeze that is caused by bronchospasm. In the following demonstrations, refer to the highlighted parts in the diagram for the targeted lung portion. Position 1 is for secretion at the front and top of both lungs. Sit up in bed. Position 2 is for secretion at the back and top of both lungs. Sit up in bed. Lean forward onto 2 pillows. Position 3 is for secretion at the front upper portion of both lungs. Lie facing up with a pillow under your knees for comfort. Position 4 is for secretion at the upper back portion of right lungs. Lie on left side with knees bent. Place 1 pillow under the chest. Rotate body slightly forward. Position 5 is for secretion at the upper back portion of left lungs. Lie on the right side with knees bent. Place 1 pillow under the chest. Rotate body slightly forward. Elevate head of bed. Position 6 is for secretion at the middle right lungs. Lie on the left side with knees bent. Place 1 pillow behind the back. Rotate body slightly backwards. Elevate the foot of bed 15 degrees. Position 7 is for secretion at the middle left lungs. Lie on the right side with knees bent. Place 1 pillow behind the back. Rotate body slightly backward. Elevate the foot of bed 15 degrees. Position 8 is for secretion at the front lower portion of both lungs. Lie facing up with the pillow under the knees for comfort. Elevate the foot of bed 20 degrees. Position 9 is for secretion at the back portion of both lungs. Lie facing down with 1 pillow under abdomen. Position 10 is for secretion in the lower back portion of both lungs. Lie facing down. Elevate the foot of bed 20 degrees. Position 11 is for the lower back portion of the right lungs. Lie on the left side with knees bent. Place a pillow under chest. Rotate body slightly forward. Elevate the foot of bed 20 degrees. Position 12 is for the lower back portion of the left lungs. Lie on the right side with knees bent. Place a pillow under chest. Rotate the body slightly forward. Forced expiratory techniques. Huffing involves taking a breath in and actively exhaling with your mouth and throat opened. It is as if you are misting up a mirror. Perform it 2 or 3 times before coughing. Coughing is key in clearing secretions in airways. It involves taking a breath in and forcefully exhaling with your mouth and throat open. Chest wall vibrations. Chest wall vibrations involve the application of fine oscillatory movements combined with chest wall compressions, initiated at the end of inspiration and applied throughout expiration. The chest wall vibrations move secretions towards the larger airways for removal. You may put a layer of towel over the chest wall area for comfort. Technique 1. With the one hand over the other, place hands firmly on the chest wall over the part of the lung that needs to be drained. Press the top and bottom hands into each other. Instruct the patient to breathe in and breathe out. As patient breathes out, tense the muscles of your arms and shoulders and apply a light vibrating pressure in an inward and downward direction. Instruct patient to cough or huff forcefully if the patient feels that secretions are in his breath. Technique 2. Place your hands side by side, firmly on the chest wall over the part of the lung that needs to be drained. Thank you for watching. For more information, contact HVRSS.
Those
or speak to
are
your doctor
those
today.
different lung position drainage.
Wow.
They're kind of complicated. I wanted you to have the whole thing, not just. And you know, these things I've seen them used. Bristy mentions. Thank you, Bristy, for your comment that it helps with asthma. People that are being treated for bronchitis, pneumonia, all of these respiratory therapies are employed frequently for that. Kat Wright says that these techniques of drainage are being used at a local hospital near where she lives, and that it is having some success. So, you know, what I think is what important for people is that if, like so many folks, you go in to a clinic, a doctor, a hospital, you telecommunicate with your doctor, and you have some symptoms. And they say, look, for right now, you're not one of those critically ill people that needs to be hospitalized. So they send you home. And they're not going to test you. They're not going to test a lot of people unless they meet certain criteria. And in some states, they don't have the testing capacity unless you're a person that's been admitted, really. You're going to be at home wondering if you have this virus or not. You're going to be at home wondering whether or not you should do anything. And the fact is that, according to Chris Cuomo and a lot of people that have been going through this, if you just lay down and let it ravage you, this virus will.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to do breathing exercises, drainage of your lungs, even when it's just for asthma or bronchitis or what have you.
You know, definitely use those techniques when you have bronchitis, because you've had that
Yeah.
many times, and it's like
You've done percussion
I've
on
done
me?
percussion, but these techniques I think are really, really helpful.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, when I was younger, I used to babysit for a child that had cystic fibrosis.
Yeah.
And in the hospital, they had a machine that did that percussion vibration thing.
Oh yeah.
They had a machine that did that. And I would have to use this machine on this kid when I would go and babysit him in the hospital. It was one of
Okay.
the things I did, is just sit there and hold that machine on him, and it went like that.
Yeah, a little
and it's just
stamper.
like, it's kind of stamped on his back, you know, like that. And it was doing the percussion, and it was doing that vibration, but it was allowing for the mucus to be carried to larger airways where it could be, you know, expelled from the body. All of these things are things that you can be doing if you're waiting on that diagnosis, if you've been sent home to quarantine, if you're waiting to find out if you have it, so that you're not allowing your body to succumb to the illness. And then by the time you already have, you know, a lot of liquid and pressure and fever, and you're weak, it might get a lot harder to you know, start to implement these. So you can start to implement these before you start feeling symptoms. that are really severe. It's always a good precaution, as Bristy has mentioned, to strengthen your lungs and build a good immune system.
Yeah.
Of course. And I wanted to show you the callousness of the activists during this virus, because I think that, I mean, I've repeated it, I will continue to repeat it, that it lays bare what their interest really is, and it's not human life, and it's not protecting the most vulnerable. It is taking advantage of a moment. And in Tijuana, the migrants from the Hugo Castro migrant embassy there on the border did their own Via Crucis, the Stations of the Cross. They recreated the Stations of the Cross, which happens around this time of year.
Oh, during Lent, yeah.
But they recreated it out in the streets without proper PPE, proper social distancing. And here is the video of their antics. Check it out.
Pequeño grupo de centroamericanos escenificaron el Vía
These are
Crucis
Central
migrante que esta vez
Americans.
tuvo lugar en playas de Tijuana, sin importar la lluvia o la pandemia.
They're
por
touching each
coronavirus.
other,
Como le digo,
pushing
le doy
each other.
gloria a Dios por esto porque Él me dio fuerzas y créame que
I
para
want to
estar
thank
aquí en
God for this,
Tijuana
because
hasta
God
donde
gave
estamos
me
ahorita,
the strength to do this,
pues
and believe
no me
me,
ha sido fácil.
it hasn't been
Sin
hard
mucha
for us.
cargando una cruz. Caminaron de manera paralela
They walked
al muro
carrying the
fronterizo
cross
con Estados Unidos, pero la
along
violencia
the
de
wall
Jesucristo
parallel
la
to the United
adaptaron al Vía
States.
Crucis que ellos mismos enfrentan.
And they talk
Pude
about, the
pasar
stations
por
of the
cosas
cross
así
that
también
they
cuando venía en
go
el camino,
through
pues muchas
when they
veces nos
travel
tirábamos de la
to
bestia
the
y
U.S.
había que correr
We were
porque
on
ellos
top
se
of the
nos pegan
beast,
atrás
and we had to
y ellos
run.
nos siguen hasta el que pues fácil se vence, fácil lo agarran.
And we had authorities chasing us, and if you give up, then you get caught,
Porque antes era una situación
Hugo
que
Castro
solamente
speaking.
mirábamos de represión
There was
en
just
Estados
a
Unidos,
situation of
pero ya
repression
lo
in the
vemos
U.S.,
a nivel
and today
mundial.
we see it
Cada
at the
vez
world
se ha
level.
agravado más la
It's gotten
situación
worse.
el Vía Crucis migrante.
The
En este Vía Crucis,
stations of the cross that the
simbólicamente recordaron desde el
migrants go
migrante no
through
identificado
is
hasta
every day
las
worse.
autoridades que los reprenden, con la esperanza de que un día puedan llegar a su destino
They
sin
hope
tanto
one day
sufrimiento.
reach their
En
destination
Tijuana, Alberto
in
Jiménez
the
para
U.S.
SCN,
and
Uni
they
Radio
put the
Informa.
cross up against the wall.
Oh, well, boy.
Nobody's wearing any face covering.
Yeah.
Nobody is social distancing. I truly believe that Mexico is headed for a horrifying set of circumstances, a true explosion. And I'm not the only one. In fact, an article just came out today. I'm going to try and get an interview with the author of this article, a man by the name of John Daniel Davidson. And this came out today in the Federalist. And he says coronavirus is about to explode in Mexico. It's time to secure the border. He said that 2 weeks ago, he warned that Mexico was dangerously unprepared for the coronavirus outbreak and that once it hit, it would spread quickly, overwhelm a weak and corrupt Mexican state and a woefully inadequate healthcare system. Despite warnings from health officials that an outbreak was inevitable, the Mexican government has done almost nothing to prepare and refused to take the threat seriously. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has repeatedly dismissed the need for any caution, urging Mexicans to go out shopping and eating. He even took his own advice, staging a large campaign-style rally, kissing babies, embracing supporters, and saying things like, "You have to hug. Nothing will happen." In fact,
He's still doing that?
no, he was doing that in the midst of the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of ordering social distancing or, taking any precautions. Now, as of Monday, Mexico's declared a state of emergency, and the number of confirmed cases exceeded 1,000, with at least 28 deaths and counting. The number of actual cases is no doubt far higher. By Tuesday, the total was more than 1,200, but because Mexico hadn't scaled up its testing like other countries have, and appears to have little capacity to do so in the future, we don't really know the extent of the outbreak. Experts estimate only about 10,000 people have been tested so far in the whole country, one of the lowest testing rates in the world. Mexico ordered schools and most government offices closed last week, and on Tuesday expanded the shutdown to all non-essential activities and businesses while prohibiting gatherings of more than 100 people. Meanwhile, in the United States, we're saying no more than 10.
Yeah.
And even that
Yeah.
is not good.
9 too many.
But the order, which will stay in effect until the end of April, appears to be largely voluntary, with no enforcement mechanisms and no penalties. It is almost certainly too little, too late. Government officials have been pleading with the people to stay at home to mixed results. Mexico City, a metropolis of some 20 million people, the shutdown is being observed inconsistently. Wealthier neighborhoods whose residents can afford to stay home have gone mostly quiet in the recent days, while poorer neighborhoods and markets largely have carried on with business as usual.
Wow.
The really terrifying thing is that the raw numbers, okay, we don't know. Testing is almost non-existent in Mexico. We don't have real numbers. We have battles right now because people are starting to sound the bell, the alarm bell, that Mexico is going to be overwhelmed and that it's going to be a humanitarian catastrophe. But let's just look at the raw numbers. Mexico has a population of 130 million people. It has only 356 ICU units.
Wow.
Fewer than 50,000 hospital beds. Fewer than 2,500 ICU beds. And just 5,523 ventilators for the entire country. For context, New York City alone has 6,000 ventilators and more than 2,000 ICU beds for one city with 20 million some people. This is over 130 million people across an entire country, and they don't even have 6,000 ventilators. So regardless of what they're telling you coming out of Mexico, of the numbers, of the fight that is going on between the EAMS and the actors and all these people going, yes, there's a problem. No, there's not a problem. Clearly, there's going to be. There's no way that this is enough to protect the people of Mexico. According to a healthcare policy analyst in Mexico City, Javier Tello, quote, we won't have supplies in time, ventilators, protective equipment for doctors. But if you ask the government, they're defending their timing. They claim they were planning this 3 months ago. Wow. The main reason for the drastic supply shortage is a deliberate government inaction. Early on in the crisis, officials refused to manufacture test kits or even to authorize their purchase. Same goes for N95 masks and other protective gear. The government only began expediting orders of these supplies from abroad last week. Meanwhile, President López Obrador continues to invite scorn for his cavalier approach to the crisis. Over the weekend, he ignored the public exhortations of his own health officials that people stay home by traveling to the hometown of the infamous drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and shaking hands with the kingpin's mother. On Monday, he claimed that if he self-quarantines, his political rivals will take over. Quote, do you know what the conservatives want? For me to isolate myself, he said. So what this means at our border is an unprecedented unpreparedness combined with incomplete data, woefully incomplete data, as to the extent of confirmed cases across the country of Mexico. And this really presents a danger to the United States because we are right next door.
Exactly.
So, although the number of smuggling and border crossings, illegal border crossings in Tijuana, in Ciudad Juarez, in the streets of Laredo, where an average of 10,000 people cross the pedestrian bridges to shop and attend school and are now deserted, there is still trafficking of narcotics and trafficking of people and smuggling of people over our border. It's dropped significantly, I give you that, but it is still happening. And since the administration put in place emergency measures on the 21st of March, that number has plunged to less than 1,000 per day. Most of those now are caught crossing illegally and are sent back immediately in an average of 96 minutes, which is a dramatic change from previous policy and much closer to the rapid deportation approach that the border security that Trump has advocated for. However, under the terms of the emergency agreement, Mexico has been refusing to accept migrants from countries other than Mexico. They don't want people deported from Central America to be sent back into Mexico.
Wow.
And you know how Guatemala feels, because I showed you in my show yesterday, they've got people staged at their border from the military and from civilian bodies that are going to stop anyone in Mexico from sending people back through
Exactly.
Guatemala.
Yep.
So cross-border air travel continues apace as of the writing of this article. There were still commercial flights to and from Mexico. And those are still running. And the dangers of air travel were underscored this week when the news that 28 University of Texas students that traveled to Cabo San Lucas, which is in Baja California, out of 70 people, 30 some of them had tested positive for coronavirus. It was one of the outbreaks that we saw. This incident underscores the unreliability of official data coming out of Mexico, especially since if you take, as of Monday, the total number of confirmed cases in all of Baja California, remember this is where Cabo is located on the southern tip, they only reported 31 confirmed cases.
Wow.
That is about the same number of students that got the virus while they were there. So that means
That doesn't add
nobody
up.
else in the state has any?
They all left and went back to the United States.
According to Teo, the healthcare policy analyst, many health professionals in Mexico are questioning the coronavirus numbers at the border on account of the massive differences between confirmed cases in Mexico and the U.S. San Diego County has 734 confirmed cases, comparing to Baja's 31. And as of Sunday, Arizona had 919 cases, while its neighboring state in Sonora had only 14. New Mexico, 237 cases. Chihuahua, right across the border, 6. In the Rio Grande Valley of southern Texas, there's a total of 121 cases in the 5 counties that border the state of Tamaulipas. And Tamaulipas has only 8. Remember, that's the tent. That's where they have the tent city with all of the immigrants. All of this suggests that the virus is already widespread in Mexico, especially in border communities, whose healthcare systems are ill-equipped to handle even a small outbreak. Based on what we know, it looks like Mexico is about to get hit with much more than that. And when it does, American officials will need to be ready to take unilateral action to secure the border. Mexico's endemically corrupt and incompetent officialdom has been an unreliable partner on border security for decades, even in the best of times. The coronavirus pandemic is about to expose in full measure and with terrible cost the corruption and incompetence therein. And I will share this with my audience on our Facebook platform in case you guys want to take a look at the full article with all its links. And you can go ahead and share that article. I've been saying this for a long time. I've been very concerned about what is going to befall Mexico. If you think things are bad here in the U.S., you have no idea how fortunate we are living here in the United States as compared to what is about to hit Mexico, folks. And I wanted to share with you what some of these Bernie supporters and people that are activists and campaigning here in the United States are really, up to behind the scenes. What we know, and this article in USA Today is highlighting it, is that 15% of Sanders supporters are going to vote for Trump if Biden is nominated. So once again, I'm showing you that people that are surrogates for the Bernie campaign, the socialist platform, really not Democratic, never intended to support a Democratic nominee. here's Jeremy White, one of those mouthpieces that I've shared with you many times,
Yeah,
saying that he's not voting for a racist rapist. Never Trump, never Biden. And here's what else they're concerned with. They're very upset that coronavirus outbreaks in the United States are infecting kids, migrant children, migrants in detention facilities in U.S. custody. Question I have for all of these activists, and if you've been watching my shows since I was reporting on the caravans, on the smuggling, on the filling of the detention facilities to overcapacity with all of these people seeking asylum, many of which they did not qualify for, then you know that I have been warning of horrible things that could happen to these migrants in these detention facilities, and I had no idea it could get this bad. I had no idea there would be a pandemic. But this is exactly what I was talking about. Whose fault is it that those detention facilities are bustling and full of people to seek asylum, which most of them won't qualify for a completely stupid reason? And I get it. I explained to all of you, they thought it would be worth it for people to stay here seeking asylum, quote unquote, because they would have to wait because of the backlog 2 to 5 years, and most of them would receive work permits. So most of them would be able to stay here and work in the United States and send money back home, even if in the end they were denied. But what now is going to happen is this mad rush by these activists to try to backpedal, and fix the problem they created. They created. And I'm not going to let them forget that. And to lighten the load, I bring you an video of a man that is making squirrel picnic tables. Yes, I need some squirrel picnic tables to lighten the mood, Duke. There he is, cutting wood.
Yep.
When in pandemic mode, make squirrel tables, I
guess. He's not just making one. He's got a whole bunch.
I've handed out 75 of them. I have 43 on a waiting list as of this morning.
I kind of want one now.
Yeah, he's got his nail gun out. And they're little tiny picnic tables. I have yet to see a squirrel.
Set it outside. You put a little treat. Squirrels come up. Birds come up.
And they sit at the picnic table.
They sit at the picnic table. And you can get a whole
bunch. And I put it on Nextdoor neighbor app. And from there, people are going nuts for it.
And there's a squirrel. And there's a squirrel using one of the picnic tables. Well, during the pandemic.
I have two favorites. One is there's a squirrel, and then there's a turkey right next to it. It looks like they're having lunch. And then another one came in where they actually painted it. And they did like a checker design on top of it.
Oh, my goodness.
So if you're bored during the pandemic, if you're looking out the window like I do at the birds and the squirrels.
Hopefully it, lightens up somebody's day and, brings some joy, to these difficult times that we're going through right now.
Exactly. So if you want to make your window watching more entertaining, consider buying a picnic table for your squirrels. Folks, I hope that you have a blessed evening. Thank you for joining us on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo-Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. God bless and good night.